So please get ready to be entertained, informed, possibly a little bit challenged. My dear friend, Jacquie Molloy.
Good morning. Hey, Joss Whedon's Much Ado About Nothing. Have you seen it? Joss Whedon's the guy, yeah? Great movie. Joss Whedon's the guy behind Buffy and Angel and the Avengers. You know, pretty mainstream stuff. And now Shakespeare. Much Ado About Nothing. 400 years old, not old. The thing I love about Shakespeare is that he gives us these fantastic stories that we've been repurposing every generation since. And he keeps working this question: how do we become who we are? Why do we do what we do? Good questions for anyone, but particularly for those of us interested in the domain of leadership. He asks us again and again, how do we become who we are? Take Macbeth, 400 years old, still relevant. This is a play about power and ambition and dysfunction. There was a study done in the Victorian Public Service this year that revealed 1 in 5 government workers are being bullied, abused, deliberately excluded by their managers. 1 in 5. That's an abuse of authority. So Macbeth, yeah, still relevant. Macbeth opens with the 3 witches. And if you've ever heard double, double, toil and trouble, that's these guys. And we meet the witches around the same time Macbeth does. He's just had a blinder of a day on the battlefield, really done a job on 2 invading armies. And he comes up to the witches and they greet him 3 times. And each time they elevate his rank. So they bump him up to Thane of Cawdor. And then they end with, "All hail Macbeth, the future king." Wait, what? Future king? Now, Macbeth's ambitious and he's going places, but he can't see how he could be Thane of Cawdor, let alone future king. So he's, taking it all with a grain of salt, has a bit of a laugh about it with his mate Banquo, right up until a rider arrives with the news that the Thane of Cawdor's been condemned to death for treason and the king's named Macbeth the new Thane of Cawdor. Wow, that happened fast. So now he's thinking, maybe there's something in this, perhaps. I'll write to the wife. Now, you know Lady Macbeth, because she's everywhere. She's Cersei in Game of Thrones. She's Victoria Grayson in Revenge. She's a little harder to spot in real life. Not because she doesn't exist, but because the reason Lady Macbeth wants what she wants and does what she does is because she doesn't have a visible role of power. So anyway, she gets the letter from Macbeth. She has none of his uncertainty, by the way. She just sees King, thinks, yep, we're going for it. But she does have concerns. She says, yeah, thou wouldst be great, not without ambition, but without the illness should attend it. What thou wouldst highly, that wouldst thou holily. And she's saying, yeah, you're great, but you're not ruthless enough. You're too interested in doing things the right way. And that's a problem for her, because that's going to take too long. And really, when it comes to becoming king, too risky. Right? Now, embedded in this scene, that's still embedded in our collective psyche, by the way, is this belief that nice guys finish last. Nice guys finish last. And there's another belief that we hold to be true. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, if this is our spectrum, nice guys, absolute power, where do we find ambition? And what do we think about ambition? Why is it that we think ambition is good and noble in some and nothing more than ego run amok in others? Here's a little game. Hillary wants to be president. Tony wants to be prime minister. Are their ambitions the same? Do we feel the same about their ambitions? Do we feel the same about them? When we start to believe that it's possible to be too ambitious, at what point then will we start to censor ourselves? make ourselves very self-conscious, even perhaps try and hide what we're doing. How you feel about ambition, consciously or unconsciously, is going to influence how you carry authority. And how you carry authority is the biggest indicator of how effective a leader you are or could be. Do you know what it feels like to not belong? I mean, I'm the chick who likes Shakespeare, right? I mean, I like Shakespeare. I like to read Shakespeare. I like to kick back on the couch, have a glass of red, read Shakespeare. I like to go and see Shakespeare performed, sure. I like to read books about Shakespeare. I like to read academic articles about Shakespeare and argue with the writer in the margin, like we all do, right? Right? Yep. So you get a bit of a sense of how I felt I didn't belong when I first started at McKinsey & Company. You know, because you've got the blue suit Ivy League MBAs over here and Shakespeare girl. No kidding. I'd be in these meetings and I just had this damn commentary going over and over in my head, like Nina. You know Nina Proudman on the TV show Offspring, right? Nina's like the Sarah Jessica Parker character on Sex and the City, that really self-conscious voiceover, except Nina's way more neurotic. So I'd be in these team meetings and I'd be trying to be professional and together and just like I belonged, really. But all the time in the head, it's, you know, sit up straight, don't sit up that straight. You don't want to look like you've got a stick stuck up here. Well, don't slouch, just kind of be cool. Just be professional. Professional. Insightful's better though, isn't it? Insightful's probably better. What? What was that? Why is everyone looking at me? Well, just nod wisely and smile, not like a clown, just smile and say something. This is a good time to say something. Just, whoa, anything now, really, anything would be good. Oh, okay, oh God. Can you relate? If there is a first step to developing and displaying leadership authority, it's to trust that there is a place for you. You. Like right now you. Not who you wish you were, not who you think they'll like better, not who you really hope you'll be in 12 months from now, but right now, you. Because if Shakespeare asks us, how do we become who we are? Authoritas asks of us, who will you allow yourself to be? Who will you allow yourself to be? Authoritas is real, know it when you see it, leadership authority. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. It doesn't matter if you're in this industry or that industry. It doesn't matter what position you hold. Authoritas is real, know it when you see it, leadership authority. It could be the leader of a company or a country who has to make a decision in real time with the same information that you have, basically, but they are willing to take responsibility, to step up, to commit, like Mayor Rudy Giuliani on 9/11. He stood on the steps of City Hall in New York before a headline was even printed. He called for calm, he embodied calm, and he created calm. And it really was an extraordinary moment. It could be Anna Bligh during the Queensland floods, who was kind of like the good queen incarnate, right? She instinctively abandoned all the posturing of a politician and just wanted to put the welfare of her people first. And do you remember the comparisons that the media made at that time with her and Julia Gillard? You know, the differences were striking. This leader can perform in those moments because they know it's precisely those moments that are why they're in the role that they're in. That's authoritas. It could be the woman who has to prepare well to make a persuasive case, to get something that she wants or that she needs. And she's able to do it in a way that doesn't make the other person wrong, that manages their expectations. It doesn't matter who she's talking to. It could be a boss or her direct reports. It could be a bank manager or a family member. She's able to behave with confidence and with influence. And more than that, a feminine authority that makes her visible. That's Authoritas. It could be the couple who have to navigate a difficult situation in their relationship. Ever been in a relationship and had to navigate a difficult situation? So imagine what it would be like if you had kind of rules of engagement, right? If you knew you had an obligation in those moments that you had to listen. You had to listen. And that you could discuss and debate, even argue, without anyone being wrong, without anyone being shamed. Imagine, I mean, the couples that know this, the families, the teams, the boards that know this, that know that it's by going into differences of opinion, of actually going there, that's how they get to better communication, better decision making. That's Authoritas. It's the preparedness to act when others might want to hold back and just get a little more information before they have to commit or have to choose. It's the ability to prepare well and to listen and to act with confidence. It's the ability to handle a focus and energy of situations that most of us would like to run from if we could. You know, it's why ambos can turn up on a scene and just create calm. It's why a good cop can diffuse a volatile situation with their presence and their words. And why the fireys on Black Saturday in Victoria can run into flames and not away from them. It's real, know it when you see it, leadership authority. And it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, we can all get better at this. Women, it's about becoming more visible and knowing what to do with that visibility. For men, it's about becoming less command and control and understanding that there is another path to authority. We know it when we see it. And you can imagine how powerful it is when our business leaders start to actively demonstrate it. All sounds pretty straightforward. So what gets in our way? It's the stories we tell ourselves, the commentary, and you know how this goes. This is well, if it was a good idea, someone else would have had it by now, right? So now we're getting closer. What's at the core of Authoritas? It's permission. Maybe not what you're expecting to hear, because we're so used to talking about leadership in terms of integrity and courage and strategy. And these are all important things. Of course they are. Of course they are. But I wonder, how well do we do them if we're not bringing all of ourselves into the role? All of ourselves into the role. If we're not willing to put our vulnerability smack up against our authority and our leadership. It requires some work. It kind of sounds soft because it's that internal stuff, but it requires work and daring. And it means getting a handle on fear and nerves, because that's what's going to take you out. And we can learn something from actors about this. There's been, a number of studies, medical, scientific studies, that say the stress a stage actor feels in performance is the same as a small car crash. But these guys look for it. They want it. They expect it. For them, it's a sign. It's a cue. It says it's time. In fact, if they're in the wings and they don't feel it, that's when they get worried. Judi Dench calls it a pleasurable terror. But pleasurable terror is not the meaning of those physical symptoms of fear and nerves that we're born with. That's definitely a learned definition. And that's what we can get better at. Because if we don't, we're liable to start comparing the wrong things. we look at the person in leadership, we look at the person who's arrived at a certain level, who has a certain amount of power, a certain amount of visibility, and we look at them from the outside and we say, they seem to have it all together. We think perhaps they no longer operate on the inside like we do, but we feel like this, and they look so together that we start to think, maybe I'm not cut out to be a leader. And if I am a leader already, I'm liable to start to think, maybe I'm not a real leader. You know, maybe I'm just pretending. Oh God, I hope no one finds out. So we can really learn how to read what's going on inside so we don't make that mistake. We can learn from the actors. And speaking of actors, there happens to be a Shakespearean character. You knew this was coming. Come on, you knew this was coming. There happens to be a Shakespearean character who perfectly embodies Authoritas. It's Portia from Merchant of Venice. Merchant of Venice is the play about Shylock. He's the moneylender, right? He's like a cross between Cash Converters and The Sopranos. Actually, The Godfather, because Al Pacino played Shylock once on the West End. True story. So Antonio, the Merchant of Venice, a little cash flow crisis, and he wants to give some cash to his mate Bassanio because Bassanio needs to, do stuff to get the love of Portia. Portia is, for me, always Cate Blanchett. All calm, all cool, all credibility. So Antonio and Shylock do a deal, even though they hate each other, hate each other. So they do a little deal, but Shylock puts in a penalty, and he says, if you default on the loan, I'm going to take a pound of your flesh. And Antonio thinks, my ships are coming in, full of bounty, I'm good to go, game on. So as it turns out, Bassanio does go and, get stuff and do stuff, and he does, in fact, win the love of Portia. Nice. Antonio, however, as we perhaps might have predicted, has a little trouble because it looks like his ships, they're lost now at sea. Not good. And Shylock's going to call in the loan. Enter Portia. Portia, witty, observant, clever, and also, as it happens now, dressed as a man, because look, it's the 17th century, guys, so you've got to give her a break. And she's going to pretend to be a judge to get her friends out of trouble, right, as you do. But I should say that how she solves this problem has got nothing to do with how she's dressed. It's all her. She finds a loophole to end all loopholes in the contract. So she gets the contract. She says, Shylock, you are right. This is airtight. Airtight, man. Airtight. So there are the scales. Sharpen your knife and go for it. 1 pound of flesh. But no more and no less. And just be careful because there's no mention of blood here. So not one drop, okay? Beautiful. But before then, at the beginning of this scene, when she first comes in, it's mediation 101. And she says to Shylock, show Antonio some mercy, which is kind of an old-fashioned word, but she's saying, be cool. Give him a break. Be kind. And Shylock says, are you kidding me? He owes me. Why would I do that? And she says, well, no one shows mercy because they have to. They do it because they can. She says, the quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It is twice blessed. It blesseth him that gives and him that takes. 'Tis mightiest in the mightiest. It becomes the throned monarch better than his crown. His sceptre shows the force of temporal power, the attribute to awe and majesty wherein doth sit the fear and dread of kings. But mercy is above their sceptred sway. It is enthroned in the hearts of kings. And what Portia's telling us and reminding us in that speech is that when you're kind, when you show compassion, when you're just real, it's not a sign of weakness, it's a strength. There are no nice guys finish last here. Shakespeare asks us, how do we become who we are? Authoritas asks of leaders, who will we allow ourselves to be? These are the things that I'm passionate about. Authoritas, visible, debate. I coach and counsel CEOs and senior execs in leadership authority. And I work with women at all stages, but particularly when they've got their eye on leadership. And I help them to discover for themselves what it will take to make them more visible and what to do with that visibility. You know, get the seat at the table and then know how to use it. And I work with boards and leadership teams in all sorts of ways, but particularly around dynamics and how to get better decision-making out of their dynamics. And we do that with the time-honoured principles of debate. And trust me when I say there is nothing stuffy about this. And I put a challenge to you. We'll run a great debate at your next event and you will love it. So I hope I get the chance to talk on one of these topics at an event for you very soon. And in the meantime, I say thank you.
Round of applause, Jacquie.